Good evening once again. My name is Christopher. I think we have so many Chris's here. So just a brief introduction about the presenter today. Dr. O.M. Udo is a highly qualified professional project management consultant and a subject matter expert in the management of multi-million pounds projects and organizational change in nuclear decommissioning and defense sectors. Dr. Udo is a distinguished chartered engineer. He was a guest presenter at the 2014 Gulf Research Conference on the topic, Addressing the Sustainability Agenda in the Gulf Region, held at the University of Cambridge, United Kingdom. Dr. Udo holds a Bachelor of Engineering degree with honors and a Master of Science degree from Liverpool John Moores University, a postgraduate certificate with distinction from University of Scotland, and a doctorate in business administration from Liverpool Business School. He also has a wealth of experience in interviewing and hiring employees across various professional roles. So the topic he's delivering is what he has done countless times and with wealth of experience that we'll be able to share and hopefully will benefit a lot from it. Dr. Udo currently works in the nuclear defense industry, and he is also a director and co-founder of Key Skills Consultancy Limited, a company aimed at upskilling teams and individuals.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Can you all see my screen? Good. So thank you very much for that warm introduction, Dr. Chris Esuk. I'm very much happy to be here and to deliver this topic. It's something which I have delivered to a number of people in the past. Normally with a topic like this, it will take a week or 2 weeks to actually get into the details of actually talking about CV writing. I was talking to a colleague not too long ago, and he told me that in his company, it took about a year for this topic to be delivered. So what you're going to be getting tonight will be more like a high-level overview in terms of CV writing, because it's so much in-depth in terms of looking into the nitty-gritty of CV writing. I will be delivering this training in 2 parts. So the first session, I'm going to be talking about what is a CV. I'm going to talk you through the employer's requirements and how do candidates get shortlisted. And the reason I've put this in is if we know what the employers want, so you know the back end stuff, it means that you can tailor your CV accordingly and to suit the employer's requirements. We're going to look at what is a good CV, and also we're going to look at examples of CV as well. And there's going to be a Q&A at the end of the first session to take some questions before I then move into session B. Just I want to check that everyone can hear me okay. Just if you can wave your hands or you can just put some in the chat or put a thumbs up, that'll be good. Good. Okay, so some food for thought then. Just ask everyone, if you're a business owner or you work in a business, will you allow a lay person to complete your financial accounts? If will you allow yourself or a family member to be treated by an unqualified medical doctor or a dentist? Will you invest your total life savings and pension on the advice of an unqualified financial advisor? And will you entrust a non-qualified captain to sail your vessel? And it's important that we understand this because as an employer, as a business owner, people want to de-risk employing somebody that is not suitable for a particular role. Hence, I've put these, as a thought. So what is a CV? The Latin word for it is curriculum vitae. The French call it current resume. Maybe someone can just type on the chat box, or perhaps if you want to unmute yourself and say what you think is a CV, that would be great. Just some thoughts. Anyone answer? Anyone typing? I can't see the. Check the chat. You'll have to read out the chat, Chris. If there's anyone that's sent a chat in there. What is a CV? What do you understand by a CV? Need some answers. Anyone? You want to help us, Chris? Hmm? Is there any chat on there?
No, I'm looking at it. No chat yet.
Okay. So it feels like I'm just checking if the audio is okay, because some people have put that they cannot hear me. Can you all hear me before I continue? Some people have said no. Just want to check that people can hear me okay.
But seeing here, there's a couple of response here. Someone says the detailed qualification. Another person said a detailed said or achievement, and someone else says a short written summary of a person's career, qualifications, and education. And yeah, and that's been shared by I think 2 people as well with that school of thought: summary of a person's education, qualification, career, or achievement. And another one says here is a document. And one person there, Martha Swiss, says, I didn't get the question. So the question is, what in your opinion is a CV?
Okay, so I'm going to proceed anyway. Yeah, so all those responses are close enough, they're good. Yeah, it shows that people understand, they see that a CV is a document. But do you know what? A CV is more than just a document. The definition of a CV says is a course of life. It's a document that details your best qualities as they relate to the open role. And I need to really emphasize on this, as they relate to the open role. So what I mean by this, if for instance, if you are applying for a particular position, take for instance, you're in a church and you want to apply for, there's a vacancy for a pastor, for instance. You're not going to tell the pastor how good you are as an engineer. You're going to detail your skills in relation to the role of a pastor. If you want to apply for a role as an IT specialist, you're not going to detail how very good you are in terms of, something that's not related to IT job. It has to be your course of life. It has to be something that relates to your to the open vacancy. And that is quite key, because a lot of CVs, a lot of people put on a CV and they just put something more generic. Now, I was asked a question some time ago when I was delivering this training. I'm saying that, does it mean that we have to have multiple CVs? Yes, it depends on the role. If you're applying for a role in different places, in different sectors, then you have to have a CV that is tailored to that particular industry or that particular role. So how do candidates get shortlisted by employers? Now, we all know that, our employers know that it is almost impossible to interview everyone. So what that means is that you got to look at what is closely aligned to 2 things. Employers are looking for, the first thing is the job description. So when they put on a job description, they want to see how closely aligned you are to that job description. The next thing they're looking for is the person specification. Are you the right individual for that particular task? So I want you to hold those 2 things in mind: the job description and the person specification. These 2 things are very, very important when you're putting your CV together towards a particular role. What do they mean in more detail? The job description is a document that also is referred to as the terms of reference and responsibilities or role profile, designed to give a summary of the roles, responsibilities, and key elements of the job. The person specification as well, these are the soft skills. It says it's a document that details the required skills, knowledge, competencies, training experience, and personal characteristics for a particular job. And this would mostly be used in the recruitment process or for internal promotion. So always have it in mind that there are 2 things that employers are looking for: the qualifications related to the job description. They're also looking for that you are the right candidate in relation to that particular role. This acronym is something that, so my background is in the nuclear industry, and within the nuclear industry and also in the oil and gas, they use this acronym called SQUEP. SQEP. And what this means is that they're looking for somebody that is suitably qualified. Are you suitable for that role? So if I advertise a role, for instance, I said I need someone that is local to the business, and you are far away from the business, you're not suitable. There must be a suitability of that person to the role. They also look at the qualification as well. Are you qualified to undertake that task? And this is something that your CV needs to detail, that you're qualified to undertake that task. They also look at the experience of the individual as well in relation to that particular role, and they look at the person involved. That is also important. Now, I'll tell you a quick story. There's a friend of mine that lives up north. He's got a chain of businesses. And one time we're talking, and because he's African origin, he's in his business. At one point, he had so many Africans working for him. And I said, well, the outlook of your business isn't right. Now, for the fact that you have too many Black people in your shop, it kind of portrays a negative, image, and it also alienates a particular group of people. An Asian person might not come in, a white person might not come in because they think that this is just, for the Black people. And he had to say, well, that you're right, Uwem. And he had to re-advertise some roles again. And though he put out the vacancy, a lot of people applied, but he was looking for somebody that is not Black. He was looking because he wanted to balance the outlook of his business. So a lot of employers will put out a job vacancy in there. In addition to the experience, in addition to your qualification, they're also looking at that you are the right person. Now, I love to look at an advertisement by the United Nations. The United Nations, when they advertise for a role, they are so direct. They will tell you that they want somebody that is female. They want somebody that is of this particular origin, to balance the outlook of the company. And in that case, that you must fit that criteria in order to apply for that role. A lot of companies nowadays, in the board, for instance, they want to balance the gender. They're looking at gender equality. So they might advertise for a role as a director in the board, but they want a female because they know that they want a female to be part of that board. So again, you have to be the right person. So I want you to have this at the back of your mind when you're applying for a role. Look at the suitability of yourself to that role, the qualification advertised in that role. Your experience as well is very important because that needs to be tailored as well. And also, it has to be you have to be the right person. If you're not the right person, there's nothing you're going to do. You might not get that role. So just to come to, in terms of that slide, so getting the ideal candidate is always difficult, and the perfect employees rarely appears. And employers, what they want to do is that they want to look at the right candidate that closely aligns to that particular job vacancy. So what are the benefits? Why do employer have to shortlist candidates? Well, they want to ensure that it's only suitable applicants required for the job are interviewed. They don't want to waste time. They don't want to raise people's hope. And this looks a bit harsh in order to raise the brand reputation of the company. Now, if you look at a lot of multinational companies, they will advertise a role and they will leave it for a very long time because they want so many people to apply, and they feel, or there's that ego within the company that they can turn down X number of people because they feel that the more difficult it is for someone to get a job in the business, the higher the reputation of that business is enhanced. It's tough, but a lot of companies do that. Again, there's why they shortlist candidates is that they want to look at and create an effective and efficient team. And there's also the bit as well of unlawful discrimination, which is very, very, very key to employers. So a lot of things I'm going to be telling you tonight is not something that has been Googled. This is something that we use in my organization. It's something that, it's kind of in-house stuff that I want to share, give you some inside knowledge. Now, some of the metrics we use to shortlist a candidate, we go through this criteria and we'll look at the skills and competencies required for the job to ensure that that person is suitable, and that person has to be marked or scored in accordance with those skills and competencies. We look at the qualifications that individuals are stated in the CV. We look at relevant experience as well and required for the job. And this is also very, very important. And I've got to say this, additional comments on your CV or application form is very, very important. It demonstrates to the employer two things. It tells the employer that you are serious about a particular role. It tells the employer that you understand what the vacancy is all about. So some sort of a cover letter, also some sort of a summary at the end is very, very important that you write something, because employers will look at that additional comment you've put in for you to get shortlisted for an interview. And the rest just goes through a scoring matrix. So again, furthermore, in terms of how candidates get shortlisted, is that they want to see evidence of skills and competences. Again, this is about a person specification. They want to look at the evidence of qualification and training. Again, it's about a person specification. They look at the evidence of experience, the job description. So these things are very, very important, and it's important that you pay attention to a job vacancy and tailor your CV and to match or to tick those competencies or to tick those requirements. Otherwise, you stand no chance of actually being picked up for an interview. Choosing the right candidates. People want to see that as the right candidate, you're bringing in new skills, new ideas to the team. Does your CV state that you are a person that can bring in new ideas? Does your CV details things that tells the employer that you can enhance the performance of the team? Does your CV entail that you can motivate a team, or does it say that you can create a more stable and a committed workforce? A lot of people, a lot of individuals, a lot of employees, they hop from job to job, and employers don't want that, because for every time they hire personnel, it's very expensive, and so they want someone that could be more stable and be committed to the organization. They want to reduce employee turnover. They want to save money and getting it right at the first time. And importantly, every company wants to improve the profitability of their business. Hence the reason why they have to go through this rigorous process, ensuring that they pick the right candidates. And it's important that you tailor your CV, accordingly, and so that you get that right chance of getting the interview. Now, what I'm showing this slide tells you an actual interview process, an actual shortlist that we did, and I want to go through this so you understand some of the things that employers look at when they shortlist candidates. Now, this first person, I've scribbled the names out, for data protection. This first individual here, we looked at the CV, and we saw that he's had 4 jobs in 2 years and 6 months. He's been out of work and couldn't explain clearly on his CV. So if there are any gaps in your employment, it's important that you highlight it. It's important that you have some explanation about that, either through maternity or through something. It has to be explained why there are gaps in your employment. And also it's important that you state, while there are gaps in employment, what were you doing during that period? Now, if you're a person that have multiple jobs, it doesn't tell good of that person, because it tells an employer that you're not someone that's stable. It tells an employer that you are someone that is just hopping from job to job, looking for their highest paid job, and you will leave very soon. Or it tells an employer that you are someone that when you pick up a job, because maybe you must have lied on your CV and then not to be found out, you then hop and leave to the next position. So that's something you've got to be careful of. The next person you see that said has limited experience of communicating with senior management. When you communicate with your friends or communicate with your mates, it's very, very different when you communicate with the seniors. You communicate in a corporate environment. And this also comes with training. Employers want to see that when you come into an organization, you've got a skill that you can actually confidently communicate with seniors. This chap that we gave the offer to, he met all the criteria in terms of what we were looking for. And if you remember what I talked about, the square profile, this person met all that criteria. This other one here says he was late for an interview. He did not present themselves in a positive manner, which is essential when meeting customers. If you get lucky enough to get invited for an interview, your persona, your attitude really matters. You got to create a positive image. You can't just go in there and feel, have this lackluster image or have a negative vibe, and obviously that's going to get picked up, at the interview. And that was what this person did. We just couldn't see any positivity in that person. You know, the lateness as well didn't do him any favor as well. And obviously, he couldn't get picked up for the job. This other person as well, which we put as second place, experienced, enthusiastic, has many skills, but less experience in comparison to the first person. This third person as well was about a similar nature as well, but again, just slightly less experience to the second person. Now, if you look at this other one here, it says demonstrated little competence in areas of team working, technical design, and customer service required for the role. You know, there are some indicators that people can tell if you're a very good team player. And it does come across on your CV. You know, team player, someone that, have you worked in an organization? Have you worked with different people? How are you able to work in harmony? Do you take people's ideas on board? Or you for someone that is very disruptive? Those kind of things could get picked up in your CV. So it's important that when you're putting your CV together, that most of these negative things, you ensure that you pay attention and don't let those come to the forefront. Again, you look at the second one says demonstrate little competence in areas of technical design. And the last one here says he wasn't prepared to travel, which is a key requirement of the role. So flexibility is very important as well. Okay, when you're putting your CV together, a few things which you want to ensure that it's all in there. All sections are completed correctly. It's neat and tidy. It's well presented. Follows a logical sequence. I want to tell you something. I look at a lot of CVs, particularly when I interview people for a role, you know, within my team. And you can see some CVs that, so, you know, are you someone that your CV tells a story? You start somewhere in June, you go back to January, and you end in December. There's no logical sequence in your job experience. You got to make sure that your CV follows a logical sequence. No spelling errors. It looks obvious, but you know what, right? A lot of CVs that I see and a lot of people that send their CVs for an interview, spelling errors. Come on, there is spell checker with Word. You can easily eliminate all those errors. No glaring gaps in employment. Now, for some people, it's obvious that you might have a gaps in your employment because of maybe you're looking for a job or you haven't just got the right job. But it's important that you state something in there. Whilst you're looking for a job, within that period, were you doing some self-study? What did you do to fill in that time? Maybe take on a voluntary work or something like that, just to try and cover or compensate for that period whilst you're looking for employment. Past and relevant experience. Ensure that they are in there. It must be relevant. Relevant experience needs to be in your CV. Additional information as well supply to show commitment to secure an interview. It's very, very important in your CV. And again, relevant knowledge of the role of the company. It doesn't take much for you to Google a company and write one or two words or one or two things in relation to the company. Use their own words on their website. Use their own word. Go on Google or whatever it is. Use one or two key things from their own company webpage to state in your CV, so that people know, or the employers know, that you have Googled the company, you have some knowledge in terms of what the company does. You haven't just sent a speculative CV. Okay, so what is a good CV? Now, I just want to pause a little bit and maybe people can just type, or if you want to mute yourself, and just, what do you think is a good CV? Just some comments. I'd like to see, based on, what do you think is a good CV? I'd like to see some comments. Any suggestions? Any text? Anything at all? Just what do you think is a good CV? Okay, I guess we'll shy then. Okay. Oh, clear and concise. That's good. Well presented. That's very, very, very good. Okay, so some of the things, looking at what's a good CV here. Let me look at examples of CV, and then we're going to look at an example of a good CV. So I'm going to start with looking at an example of a bad CV. Please don't put this on your CV. I've seen a lot of CVs that follow this nature. When you put your CV together, this might look, hang on, this is a good CV. What is wrong with the CV? In terms of your address, for your own safety, do not put your full address. You just put your city where you're located. So if you are in the UK, for instance, you can say Liverpool, United Kingdom, that's okay. If you're in Nigeria, for instance, you can say, Lagos, Nigeria, it's okay. Or Ikeja, Lagos is okay. Do not put your full address, because this will go in the public domain, and you don't know where your CV is going to land. So it's important that you don't put your full address. And I think it's very important. And that is for your own safety as well. In terms of a telephone number, try and put your country code in there. +44, +234, whatever it is, it makes it look a lot more professional. What's wrong with this email address? Someone who puts coolguy007. If you are an employer, would you take that person as a serious person? To me, I just feel that this person is a joke. You understand? It doesn't look across that his person, is serious about it. So try, and if you have an email that isn't very professional, maybe open something that is more professional, or something that represents, some more seriousness in terms of, applying for a role. Your date of birth, in multinational companies, they know that for data protection, they're not required to ask you your date of birth. And I see a lot of CVs, and particularly a lot of African and Nigerian CVs, that people put their full date of birth. You don't have to do that. Take it out. If your employer asks you for a date of birth, then you can put it in there. But do not put your full date of birth. Your nationality is not really important. Don't put your nationality, except you're asked. Do not put your gender, because nowadays a lot of companies, particularly multinational companies, there's this gender equality. So they might think that you might be able to sue companies for gender bias. So do not put your gender in there. It's not important. Your marital status is not important, whether you're single, married, or whatever it is. It's none of their business. So you are here to apply for a role, and you want to demonstrate your suitability in accordance with a role. But however, if your employer does ask for those details, then that is different. If they don't ask for those details, this is way, way too much information. You don't put those on your CV. Yeah. Another bit as well. I mean, again, if you look at the details in here as well, his education, he's just listed in things in there. His achievements, oh my God, finished my college studies. Everybody finishes their college studies, for God's sake, or most people finish their college studies. What have you, is that an achievement? Currently working as an IT, as an IT support assistant. That's an achievement. Right? Another example here as well is that you look at a lot of things here that are so wrong with the CV. Again, it's not very detailed. He's putting acronyms in here, which people don't know what they are. The job responsibilities here, he's actually listed the job responsibilities without not telling his employer or telling someone that's going to hire him what he or she has actually done within that organization. It's very vague in there. Another one as well, again, if you look at this CV, look at the formatting on that CV. Space, the font is all over the place. You can't be bothered to put a bullet point in there. It just feels unreadable. I mean, look at that. No clear formatting in there. It's all scattered. And again, it just shows an employer that you're a person that isn't good in terms of your attention to detail. So please, those are things that you shouldn't put on your CV. That is a bad example of a CV. Some of the things that you should never include in your CV: irrelevant work experience. If you're applying for a role in a shipping industry, you have to make sure that you tailor your experiences in accordance with the shipping industry. Now, if you've worked in IT, you've worked in somewhere different, you know what, right? all well and good. You can put that as other information. So let me give a good example. If I also apply for a role, with a shipping company, now my experience is being within the nuclear industry. If I begin to state how very good I am in the nuclear industry without not putting anything in relation to the shipping, in relation to a ship or a vessel, no one's going to take me because they think that that is an irrelevant work experience that does not suit the criteria of the job. Meaningless introduction. Do not put that. I see some CVs that you start with, I am this. Why are you telling me, I am this? And, hang on, you just don't put all those meaningless introduction or personal stuff. Age, marital status, I said it's not important. Blatant lies. You know what? Some people can put lies in their CV or put some misleading information on your CV. It's only a matter of time you're going to get caught out. It's important you actually avoid blatant lies on your CV. Inconsistent formatting. Again, it makes your CV unreadable because don't forget when managers pick up your CV, they haven't got much time to look at the CV. You got to make it appealing to them. You got to make it appealing to someone to look at the CV, and they want to really look at and read the CV. Do not write your CV in third person. Yeah, the CV is all about you and your experiences, and it's important that you demonstrate that. Do not write in third person. Okay. Sorry. Now, some people use present tense for a past job. Again, it's that is a wrong. Do not put that in your CV. You understand? Everything has to be current in terms of your presentation. I talked about having a professional email address. Look at somebody's email address, beerlover@gmail.com. I mean, QCheck, all those things. It just it doesn't look right, and it could be a distraction for an employer. Company-specific jargons. We sometimes you work in a particular industry, and you might have some acronyms that means a lot to you within that organization, but doesn't mean anything to an employer. So it's important that you don't put a lot of company jargons in relation to your CV. Outdated fonts. We are in this generation, and there are better fonts that you can use. I think Times New Roman, it's had its days. Really. So if you want to look at fonts on your CV, try and put something that is more appealing, Calibri or Arial, and those ones are quite good fonts that people can look at, and it makes your CV a bit more presentable. Again, when you're writing your CV and you're putting some details in your CV, opinions, not facts. Yeah. So don't if you're putting something, it has to be factual there. So what is an example of a good CV here? So if you look at this person's CV here, you can see the way he's put a location, he's put his telephone number there, his email address, which is good. He tells you, he details in terms of his professional profile, a summary, so you can easily, quickly tell who that person is. It tells his core skills. This is what he's good at. So he's good at. Look at the way he's presented his work experience. The formatting is absolutely on point in terms of his responsibilities. He tells you what he's done and tells you what he was responsible for while he was working within that organization. And then he tells you again his key achievements, measurable achievements as well, resolving 100% customer complaints within guideline time of 48 hours. Those are succinct and measurable achievements. Again, you can see he can go on and on and on, and it tells you all those details as well. Okay. Another one again, which I love as well. This person, he had a summary page on the CV, applying for a particular vacancy. It came to my desk, and this, I could see that, okay, this is what he wants. He tells me his discipline, the vacancy reference. He references that, tells me where his location, and he just goes around and puts this table in here, telling me that he's ticked the boxes right in terms of the experience, his qualification, the years of experience, and the money we advertised the role for. It's ticked all the boxes. And you know what, right? It shows that this person has taken his time to read that vacancy and has gone a bit more and to provide details in relation to that job vacancy. Yeah. So at this point, I just want to pause to take on any questions in relation to CV before we move on to job opportunities. So I don't know if anyone has written any questions or any Chris, is there any questions I need to address before we move to the next one?
Yes, I think there's one question from Connie Dunia. So we'll like to call her to read out the questions.
Okay, Matt, you might need to unmute another person here.
Yeah, so I'm just here. Okay, so the question Connie asked is, in the case of seafaring, where the jobs are hardly permanent with changing companies frequently, will that be an issue? I think he goes back to when you made a comment about frequently changing jobs.
Okay, that's a very good one. So in terms of gaps in employment within the shipping industry, and I know that it's all ad hoc sometimes. Now, you could put a statement in there at the bottom of your CV, saying that due to the nature of the industry, I was in between contracts. So whilst you were while that contract finished, while looking for another contract on that role, you undertook this training course, you attended this seminar. So employers want to see that you're consistently upskilling yourself, that you haven't just basically stopped improving knowledge, you're upskilling yourself. And that is a way you can demonstrate that you do something within that period whilst waiting for a job to come. I don't know if that answers the question. Mm-hmm.
If I can add a little bit to that, I believe what the question was all about is for seafarers who rely on contracts. It could be 6 months contract, and then the job is finished, and he or she, I think she wants to know whether or not she needs to be worried, because I also have the same problem. Luckily enough, I've been moving from jobs to job, but I do contract jobs. It can be 1 year, it can be 6 months. Sometimes I take a job for 3 months. And the person wants to know, should she be worried, when she's got something on the CV, because you can finish the job and then have to wait for 2 months or a month or 6 to find another job.
That's great. So if you go back to my presentation, I mentioned something in my presentation as saying unexplained gaps in employment. And that's what I mean, unexplained gaps in employment. So again, at the bottom there, in your CV, at the bottom, you can write something as saying, due to the nature of my job, it was the contract finished. And whilst you are looking, so the period of whilst you are home looking for another contract, you just don't wait doing nothing. Even though ideally you're still waiting and applying for a job, but try and demonstrate to the employer that maybe you could be like picking up some soft skills or some training or some attending seminars or whatever it is, something in relation. You just want to demonstrate to your employer that you are still in touch with your industry. And that is very, very important. And you haven't just left and just not done anything about it. So that is the only way you can go around explaining those gaps in employment.
Okay, we do have 3 other questions as well here. Okay. And the first one is from Ishaya. He said, what is the ideal number of pages a CV is supposed to have?
So ideally for a CV, no more than 2 pages, at the maximum 3 pages. No more than 2 pages, maximum 3 pages, because don't forget, you have to condense your experiences into you have to summarize the experience into 2 or 3 pages that people can read and go through quickly and know that you're the right candidate. So I would say no more than 2 or 3 pages. 3 pages at the very max, but ideally I would say 2 pages.
Okay. Right, and there's another question here from someone that said, what about those that are yet to have experience in the marine or shipping industry? Is it okay to add experience gotten during your IT? And that IT, I will think, is industrial training.
Okay, so that's a very good one. Now I will touch on this in my next presentation in terms of job opportunities. Now, whilst you are looking to gain experience, take up a voluntary role. You understand? try and, if you walk into a company, I'll give an example. When I finished university, I didn't have a professional job at the very beginning. I just walked into a garage that they fix ship engines, and I said, well, can I come in and just be, can I support you in what you guys do? Now, when they took me on, they had no contract. I volunteered my time. I was doing that 2 days a week. Eventually, the guy said, you know what, we'll put you on for 5 days a week. And I was just shadowing people, shadowing the engineers there in terms of what they were doing. It was a voluntary role, but I was building my experience. And when I did eventually apply for a professional job, I used that voluntary role as my experience. So just don't sit down. Whilst you're waiting, you can volunteer. You can look at a lot of things there are things you can do in terms of leadership courses or communication skills or whatever it is. You can demonstrate, you can do things to fill in that time whilst the job is coming or whilst you're going to get that job.
Okay. Yeah, and there's another question here that someone is said about, can I write during the period I did a short course? I think you've already touched on that, yeah. You have to explain what you were doing in between absence. There's another question here says, is it always important to include a covering letter? I think this is important.
100% is important to include a covering letter because a covering letter summarizes your experiences. It summarizes, because that's an opportunity for you to obviously relate to the employer that you've understood the job vacancy and how suitable you are to that role. So I would say yes, and a cover letter should be no more than a page, 2 or 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph, the middle, you tell about what it is, and then you conclude. So 2 or 3 paragraphs on a cover letter. I'll say yes, it's always important to include a cover letter.
So if I can add a question there, what should be in a covering letter that you've just touched and what should not be?
Okay, so we're going to delve into another presentation now because as I did mention at the very beginning, that this training or this course is something I'll do over a week, over 2 weeks. And there's also another part to this presentation as well that goes into writing the actual details that goes in there. And maybe we could look at that at a later time. But what should be in a covering letter? The beginning should introduce who you are. Tell me, what you are in relation to that task, in relation to that experience. Tell me what you've achieved and why you're looking for the job. And then tell me at the end, why should I hire you? Why do you think you're better than anybody else? If I see 2 people in front of me here of the same experience, why are you better than that person? So that is an opportunity for you to tell and sell yourself. And I'll call it this way, you can sell ice, we'll try and sell ice to the Eskimos, make yourself look better on paper than you actually are, so that people will be curious that I want to interview this person. Okay, so I think we should maybe move on to the next part of the presentation. And maybe that might answer a lot of this question, and then we can come back to some of these questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think that, there are a lot of questions here, but I think we can try.
So move on to the next part of the presentation, and then we'll come back and address these questions, if it's okay. So, so moving on then to the next part of this presentation. Can you all see my screen? Yeah. So in relation to job opportunities, the key thing that is always in anybody's mind is where can we get this job? When will this job come? And how do we get this job? And that is always an important or the $1 million question a lot of people will ask to themselves. But, I have a favorite quotation, and this is always actually one of my late dad's quotation. He always says that gold is not found on the surface. If you want gold, you must dig deep. So what am I saying here? If you want a good job, you have to put in the time. It's not going to land on your doorstep. You'll have to go the extra mile. You'll have to work hard. You'll have to make yourself look good on paper to get that good job. Let's look at some statistics here. I've picked the statistics both in the UK and also in Nigeria as well. So look at the statistics in terms of job adverts. Now, a lot of jobs will be advertised on a company's website. And that is 92% of jobs will be found on the company's website. So you have to go on Google and check these companies and look for those jobs that have been advertised. 81% of jobs will be through social network. What is your professional social network like? So that's a high number. your contact. They will tell you about a role. And there's an alumni organization as well. They can advertise jobs in there, or you can have professional contacts in there. Employee referrals. People will refer you for a role. A lot of companies, they actually give incentives, and when somebody recommends a particular employee or a particular person to be hired. Agencies as well, 64%. Another high number as well, social media. You get a lot of jobs advertised on social media as well. But look at these statistics here. On the average for a corporate job opening, you have 250 resumes that will come in, 4 to 6 will get interviewed, and only one person gets the job. In some sectors, a lot higher. For an entry position, they're having over 4,500 applications for an entry position. And one thing I've got to reiterate is that a lot of companies, most companies use a talent management software to screen resumes. So there's this artificial intelligence, because they haven't got time to start looking through a number of CVs or whatever it is. So once you put your CV through, it will go through a computer system, and that will check if the right wordings are in there. If the wordings that they've asked for in the job application is in there, then it will get picked up. If it's not in there, it will get taken to one corner. Before it even gets to the manager's desk, it will get screened by an artificial intelligence software system. Now, this is again statistics as well by the UK National Office of National Statistics. Hiring managers and recruiters spend between 6 to 8 seconds looking at a CV, and this is absolutely true. I've been in the situation where we want to hire somebody in a particular role. Some agents will send me a CV, and usually we look at the CV towards the end of the day, and you just glimpse through the CVs, and you want to check to be sure that they tick the right boxes. So a lot of people haven't got the time to look at your CV in detail, and that is why I say the very beginning of your CV, that profile at the beginning is very, very key, because that is what will catch people's attention. When they see that profile, it makes that they want to look more in detail who this person is. In the UK, for instance, as at the end of last year, 1.62 million people were unemployed, maybe due to COVID as well. And currently, there are almost 10 million people that are actually actively job hunting. So people that are employed, looking for another job. So you can see that the terrain isn't easy. So there are people that are in a job looking for a job. There are people that are not in a job looking for a job. So you can see that the competition is very, very high. It's not easy. Now, just in terms of qualifications, and this is again looking at UK statistics here, on a yearly basis, almost 1 million people, that's 800,000 people will leave or have some sort of qualification, a postgraduate certificate qualification or undergraduate qualification. Half of those will be a postgraduate qualification, and over about 24,000 people will have a doctorate qualification every year. You can see that a lot of people leave university, or they are qualified and they are also looking for a job. It just shows you that the terrain isn't that rosy. Now let's take it a bit, and I was quite conscious that a lot of people from Nigeria will dial into this call as well, and I've looked up some statistics as well in relation to the Nigerian unemployment statistics. Now look at the end of Q2, there were almost 21.7 million Nigerians that were unemployed. That is very, very high, a very high number of unemployment. And it says that the combined unemployment rate and underemployment rate, and underemployment here is that people that are not fully, that are in a job, but they're not actually being fully utilized, or you are in a job that is below your capability. It's over half of the unemployed workforce. That is really high as well. It just shows you that this is a tough terrain. Getting the right job isn't easy. And look at that, which is kind of maybe for wow. 7.6 million of these people have just resigned to their faith, not even bothered about even checking or looking for employment. Maybe they've tried, they're discouraged, but this is what the data shows, and this was published in the newspaper as well. Now, in terms of qualification, there are over 134 recognized polytechnics or degree awarding universities, institutions in Nigeria, and 600,000 will graduate every year. This is an employer's view. is saying if you schedule an interview to assess young graduates or for possible employment, you may be wasting your time examining certificates and paper qualifications. To access suitability, simply ask the applicant to write 1 or 2 page essay on a relevant issue. And this kind of goes back to what I mentioned before. A covering letter is very important because that is what people will read first. They will look at a CV, but having a covering letter demonstrates a lot about you. It talks about you, it talks that you can succinctly summarize a topic and give that description to the employer for them to look at to consider you for a role. So this kind of demonstrates, the picture here could be very, disheartening or whatever it is, but I just want to reiterate that this is a tough environment in terms of looking for that real good job. And you have to put in the time. It wouldn't just land on your feet. You have to put in the time from doing a good CV, from going out there, building professional networks, and actually digging deep, improving yourself, and to actually get that right position and that you seek. So what's the job market like? Now, a job opportunity is an open position of employment possibility, and I say is an open position. Now, I want to tell you something, and this is true. Not all jobs are real. Not all jobs are real openings. And you might think, why will it be? Are you sure what you're saying? I'm sure what I'm telling you. Now, top companies, likes of Shell, whatever it is, they will put out a position there, or companies might put out a position there that are not really, they're not sure about. Because before a company goes through to actually get somebody on board, they want to check that they have the funding in place, or they might just want to check to see what the market is looking like. And this is why you can see a lot of jobs out there after a number of years, it gets pulled. I've seen some jobs in for instance, the United Nations, for instance, they will advertise a role after 3 months or 6 months, they'll pull it down because they haven't got the funding for it, or something's come up, or they've changed their mind. It does happen with companies. Now you will say, why will a company do that? They won't access the market regarding uncertainty to replace an employee. So that there could be a situation where, as a manager within your own department, you might have 1 or 2 employees there that are not really pulling their weight. And if I could do replacing this person, this lady or this guy, they're not really pulling their weight in. And then before you then go ahead to replace that person, you want to test the market because you don't want to lose what you've got when there's no replacement coming in. And so employers will then put a job advert out there. And to be honest with you, in my time of working, I have seen my job advertised. And when I saw my job advertised, I thought, hang on, what was going on here? So I spoke to my line manager and I said, oh, they want to check to see if there could be somebody local. And I used that because they advertised the role. And unfortunately, they advertised the salary, which was higher than what I was getting paid. And I said, you know what? I want to get paid a salary. And it worked in my favor because I eventually got a higher salary in relation to what was advertised. So employers could do that as well. There's also this bit, which is very, very common. And I'll tell you something. Employer could know who they want to employ. They will have a cousin, a friend, they have someone that they want to employ, or someone as a contractor within the organization they want to employ. And in order to portray a fair process, they will advertise a role. Well, you know what? They know who they want to take. Yeah, and they just advertise that role so that it is perceived that there's a fair process that's been followed. But at the end, they will tell you, oh, this person is more suitable. And employers do that. If you are in that position to be employed, will you not be happy? So again, this is, they have that within the right and to do things. It may sound unfair, it may sound harsh, but that is the world we live in. And I have done that as well, where you have a contractor, you want to make that person permanent, and then you just, come up with a job advert, but you actually know who you're going to give that job to. Okay. This is by Thomas Friedman, and he says that the notion that we go to college or university for 4 years and then think that we're going to utilize that knowledge for the next 30 years is over. If you want to be a lifelong employee anywhere today, you have to be a lifelong learner. You must learn. You must continue to upskill yourself. And I cannot reiterate this more importantly. You must upskill yourself. It's very, very important that you upskill yourself, because that would demonstrate to an employer that you are somebody that is keeping up with technology. And that means that now is now on you to self-motivate yourself to learn. You mustn't wait for somebody, your boss or wherever, to put you forward for a course. You have to keep upskilling yourself. Look at things out there and go and upskill yourself. It is very, very important. If you stay stagnant, with time, you might just get replaced. Now, what are the key skills that you need to ensure that in your CV, you clearly articulate that, so an employer can see that? Communication skill. It's important, and it's not like, okay, I can, communication cuts, and this is not about accent. And I keep reiterating this. It's not about your accent. It's about when I speak to you, do you understand what I've spoken to you about? I have a lot of, I don't want to call, they have different nationalities I've worked with. I've worked abroad. I've worked with the Chinese, for instance, and there are some Chinese that will speak, even though they've got the accent in there, but you can understand them clearly what they're talking about. So it's not about the accent. It's about, do you understand, or have you passed your message across when you are giving your storyline? One of the examples I give to people is that if you want to test your communication skill, why don't you do a presentation? Or for those of you that go to a church, give a testimony in church, record yourself, and then listen back to yourself and say, you know what, have I passed my message across? Have I just waffled and say things that is not understandable? I work down south, and when people from up north come to work with me, they speak too fast, and I said, you got to slow down because I can't understand what you're saying. You understand? And these are typical whites or British, and they could speak too fast and can't understand them. So it's all about being understood, and it's very, very important. Teamwork. Employers are looking for people that can work in a team, not someone that will come into the office and begin to give a lot of problems. People will deal with things at home. When they come to the office, they want to have harmony. And it's important that you are able to display, portray that you are a team worker. Are you someone that has got initiative, that can solve problems? Are you someone that has got computer skills and IT skills? These are things that is the future. You have to develop yourself in terms of IT skills. Look at there are so many free packages out there in terms of Excel, Microsoft Word, and you can look at and to upskill yourself. Are you organized? Have you got a bit of leadership quality in you? They want hard work and dedication. So the dedication comes in when you look at your CV and see that consistently you've been following, you've upskilled yourself, you have been part of an organization, and you follow things through. You're not just stopping and starting and moving around jobs. Creativity as well is important, numeracy and reliability. Again, that is also an important skill that companies will be looking for to get you hired. And that is something you need to try and portray within your CV as well. Okay, so how to make yourself employable and find a job? I did mention this at the beginning. You need to have a tailored CV. Now, it might mean that you might have a number of CVs, but it has to be tailored. If you're applying for a role as a seagoing person, or if you want, it's different from the way you're going to tailor your CV for a seagoing person to someone that wants an office-based job or within different sectors. It has to be tailored. If you just send your CV out there and spread around, it's more like a speculative CV. And you know what? How many people will look at those CV? Not very many. Get some work experience on internship. I know sometimes this can be very challenging, but I did give my example that when I finished my university degree, I didn't have a job straight away, but I had to go in there and look at to see how I can get some experience by volunteering within a shipping organization. Create a clean online presence. I mean, LinkedIn nowadays, I've heard a lot of people say, I get contacted by people on LinkedIn. They've seen my profile, they contact me for a job because you have a clean online presence. You need to put something in there that people can look at, and it will get picked up by software or by this automated system in terms of that job opportunity that does come up. Get a part-time job. If you cannot get a full-time job, get a part-time job. Maybe that might be a way to have your foot in the door. I talked about volunteering as well. Is also a key thing as well. Try and volunteer, because when you volunteer, It does help, give you that experience that you need. I'll tell you a funny one. I recently interviewed a lady for a job not too long ago. When I looked at her CV, she didn't really have any proper paid job. But one of the jobs she put in her CV was, she says she was a sales representative and a customer focused person that helped increase the profitability of her mother's business. And I said, okay, what is this, your mother's business? He said, oh, the mother has a mobile gift shop. What's a mobile gift shop? Someone that just buys things and put, in Nigeria they call it, you buy this, Ankara, you buy this hair tie gears, whatever it is, and you sell to people. And that's exactly what she was doing. But you see, the thing is that she was able to fine tune that position, that she picks up what her mom sells from the boot of her car by talking to different people and having that customer facing role, talking to, to increasing sales. And I felt, hang on, that is a very good skill, because it's not an easy skill convincing somebody to buy something from you, particularly in a competing environment where 2 or 3 or 4 people are selling almost the same item and people come to you to buy that item. I think there might be something about your personality. Yeah. So again, that is just to reiterate the importance of a volunteer role. Network and make contact. This is very important. You can't just be in isolation. A lot of organizations have their alumni. It's a good way to network. Look at some professional networking areas as well and see, how do you make contact and ensure that you are actually talking to the right people at the right level, to let you know when those job opportunities does arrive. Be flexible. You cannot say you're looking for a job and you have your terms and conditions. I'm not going to move to this place. Then to me, I don't think you're ready. You have to be flexible. Now, in some certain circumstance, you might have to have some, you might be rigid in some certain areas that you cannot do X, Y, Z or whatever it is. But you have to demonstrate some level or some degree of flexibility if you want to really upskill yourself or get that right job. Practice makes perfect. And the reason I put this in here is that if you are getting invited for an interview, why don't you just practice in front of somebody, in front of a mirror, or talk to a friend and just practice how you're going to portray yourself? Or perhaps you give your CV to somebody to look at the CV and they go through that CV and read it back to yourself, so that it will help you perfect those areas of imperfection on the CV. Cold calling. Sometimes why you cannot just call someone, I'm looking for a job. Have you got an opening? I did cold calling, and I always as an example. I just walked into an organization, up in Liverpool, and I said, you know what, I've just graduated from university. Can you, are you willing to? I'm willing to come in as a volunteer to work in your company. And I was lucky, and this chap took me on for a couple of days a week, and then gradually increased those days, the days which I worked with him. So again, it does pay as well. Employment agencies, register with different agencies as well. And I put this one, divine instinct. I just mentioned to you at the beginning of this presentation that, there are some certain jobs that are not real jobs. There is that, people call it, luck. People call it divine instinct or whatever it is. If you serve a God, maybe that divine thing is going to be in there. It's important that you have that divine instinct. What is your inner person telling you? Does it say that job is your job, or do you say that you should go for that role, or which doors should you knock on? It's always good to follow that instinct and go with that, what that inner spirit tells you in relation to getting that role. So I want to conclude with some recommendation for action here. Build an adaptive mindset. You have to be flexible. You have to have that adaptive mindset. Take ownership for your learning and development. You got to stop blaming everybody. Blame the government, blame this, blame that, blame your parents. Yes, they haven't provided an environment that might make you succeed, but yeah, it's tough. You are in it. Take responsibility for your own learning. Take responsibility for your own development. See how you're going to improve yourself and stop blaming people, because you only blame and complain and nothing will happen. Attitude of know it all to learn it all. Be someone that, you're willing to learn, because learning never stops. If you have this persona, that you know everything and you're arrogant, you're going to lose out a lot, because people think, oh, he or she knows it too much. Why should I tell him or anything? You understand? So try and have the attitude, have that humility in you, and try to move on from I know everything to I want to learn, and have a humble spirit. Recognize the changing demands of the job market. Things are changing. Someone that used to be a typist years ago, who employs a typist now? That job is well gone. It's never come back again. So you have to know what things are changing. How do you need to change your skills? How do you need to change and upskill yourselves to suit the demand of the next 5 to 10 years? Now things are going automated. Do you stand at risk of being made redundant because of your redundant skills? Try and upskill yourself. Try and learn new skills. Try and look at where things are moving, and plug in yourself in that direction, to ensure that you make the most of things. Consider emerging markets. Just don't be stuck with, okay, this is how I've been taught to do things. This is how this is. Look at the emerging market. Years back, people always say, oh, you have to be a doctor, you have to be this. But there's so many careers that pay better. There's so many careers or industries that are emerging now that are way better than what we were told 20 years ago by our parents or by our teachers. Things are changing very, very fast. And look at other emerging areas and see how do you plug yourself into those areas of work. Be curious about your field of expertise. Read magazines. Know what is happening, because I tell you what, you will impress people, not just even your employer, by talking to people or making comments in a general forum that demonstrates that you have something about your own field. You can contribute to conversations around your own field. Really makes you stand out from other people. So be curious about your field and develop your knowledge in that regard. I'm sorry that this has been a bit rushed, and I did mention at the very beginning, and this would normally take a very, very long time to actually detail, I don't know, the bones of this presentation, but I had to give you a high level, overview of what it is today. And I hope you've gained something from today's conversation or today's presentation. Hopefully, at a later date, we could look at a bit more in relation to looking at how you can actually construct that CV and how you can put some transferable skills onto paper. So I'm going to stop at this point, and I'm going to take questions from anybody. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Udo. So far, I have about 6 questions, so probably, and then we only have about 14 minutes, so might probably will rush a bit so that other people probably questions will come. So the first question here is says, in terms of experiences, what if you don't have enough experience or none at all, maybe changing industry and you don't have experience in a new industry?
Okay, so that is quite common. People change industries. There's a way you have to tailor your CV to move. Okay, someone that has been a sea-going person, always worked on a ship, has always worked as as a sea-going personnel, and now wants to work in the office, right? And you haven't got any experience or any managerial experience working in the office. Now, how can you then tailor your experience, or how can you then tell an employer that you are ready to take up a job within the office? Now, you can say, whilst you worked on board for the next X number of years, you have gained communication skills, you have gained X, Y number of experience, which are transferable to an office-based job. And you're now ready or willing to take up on a role in the office in order to further enhance your skill, or in order to further apply that knowledge towards the development of the company. So there's a way we call it transferable skills. A lot of people from university, when they finish university or they finish their studies, they come into work in an organization. They haven't got those experience. But I see a lot of CVs that people will tell me, I interview people in terms of, maybe the graduates, and they will say that while they were at university, they did a volunteer role, or they were part of a society within that organization, which was had to do with which they took a lead in terms of helping that organization to grow. So again, that is a transferable skill in terms of team player, in terms of communication skills, in terms of leadership skills that you can transfer into organization. So just to summarize on that, look at what you have in the past, look at what you have, and try to demonstrate to the company or to the employer that you have a transferable skill that can be used in that environment.
All right. Okay. Thank you. I think you might want to be a bit brief because there are some questions in here. The next question is, what if you are an IT specialist, but an expert in electrical repair, for instance, but you have no certificate to present for electrical, and you want to apply for a role of electrician in an organization? How do you include these in your CV?
It's pretty straightforward. Go and get a qualification in electrical in IT. You have to, you know, at the very beginning, I put some food for thought. How do you demonstrate that you have the competence? Now, you can, I'll give an example. Project management, for instance, for you to become a professional qualified project manager, you have a lot of qualifications you have to go. But there's a foundation like Prince2 Foundation you can do, which anybody can pick up a book, read through that, and you can pass Prince2 Foundation. But it tells an employer that this person is serious and ready to take the first step in. So if you haven't got a qualification in that particular industry, look at what qualifications you can get. Go and look at that industry and look at what are the basic or the foundation qualification that can be taken to get your foot in the door. It's important you have to get some sort of qualification to demonstrate to your employer. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And so there's another question here, which is actually very important because it's crucial for mothers. And it's from Angela. She said, she asked, it is quite difficult winging motherhood and career together. Is it okay to state in your CV that I took a break due to motherhood? And she said that, for instance, like if there's a gap more than 3 months, I think probably is because in Nigeria you do have 3 months max or something like that, but in the UK you do have 1 year. But she's saying, yeah, if like you took more than 3 months maternity leave, you're given by most companies, probably in Nigeria.
Okay, so you clearly know that in the UK, for instance, in the multinational companies, we cannot discriminate against women that have taken maternity leave. If you do that, you can be behind bars. So if you've taken time off because of childbirth, if you've taken time off because of maternity leave, it is legally okay for you to put on your CV that you were out of work for, you can put a year or 2 years due to maternity and due to bringing up your child or babysitting, whatever it is, you've taken that time off because of your child, and you should not be discriminated. A company that discriminates you on that basis, do you really want to work for that company? I don't think that's the right company to work for. A multinational company, a company that understands the law, understands the rule, will not discriminate you on that basis. And it's okay for you to state in there you've taken time off because of childbirth or for nursing your little baby, breastfeeding, whatever it is, over a period of time, and now you're not ready to come back into organization and to start putting go back to work and to start developing yourself.
Okay, there's another question here by someone that asks, how long do you need to be unemployed after your last contract before you consider yourself having a career break or a career gap?
It's a bit of a tricky one on that one, to be honest. Chicken and egg. How long do you have to be employed for? I think anything beyond, 3 months on your CV, a gap on your CV, 3 months, then people start looking at, what has this person been doing within 3 months, or 6 months? Because employers could think, is this an ex-convict, for instance? Has he been in jail? So those are things that people look at, and that's why they want to ask. And the reason why employers ask for, to find out what you were doing within that period is that they want to know that within that period of unemployment, were you actually developing yourself? Because a lot of people look for jobs, we know the terrain is difficult, you understand? But what sets you apart is that whilst you're looking for a job, and I've said it so many times, whilst you're looking for a job, what were you doing to upskill yourself? Simple IT course, learning a bit of computer software, so computing work, I've attended courses on my own I've paid for, just to develop myself. I've attended courses to, leadership courses, teamwork courses, some I've paid myself. It just demonstrates an employer that this person is serious and is willing, is hardworking, and is willing to actually move on to the next level. Yeah.
Okay. So I hope that is clear enough. There is another question here that says, is BSc grade needed in a CV when not needed? Suppose it should be, is BSc grade needed in a CV if not asked? Or
yeah, I mean, a BSc is a good qualification to have, because if you have it, put it in there. Now, if you don't have it, then it's not the end of the world. Now, what a degree does, what a degree does, does in terms of employment, is that it demonstrates to an employer that this person can read and write. It demonstrates to an employer that this person has got some certain skills in them. It demonstrates to an employer that doesn't demonstrate an expertise. It just gives you some foundation there that people can look at. He's degree qualified. There's something about his attitude. There's something about his hardworking that I want to say a bit more. Now, if you haven't got a degree, it's not the end of the world, because there's so many people that have made it without a degree, so don't feel bad. But you can also articulate in your CV your experiences. So what can compensate for not having a degree will be your experience. Because if you haven't been doing a degree, whether 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, then during that period, what were you doing then? You have to demonstrate that on your CV, and you can state that over the last 4 or 5 years or 3 years, this is what you did during that period. Now you want to take on a role within that particular industry.
Okay. So the next question from Inatsimi is it important to put one's picture on a CV? This one.
Why? No, it's not important. Why do you want to put your picture on a CV? Again, I've told you that is too much information. You're taking up valuable space that is not required. Now, what if you put a picture on your CV and somebody just looks at your face and don't like your face? You're doing yourself a disservice. Don't let the person. It's not important. It's too much information. No need. No need to put a picture on the CV. I would say it's a no. Except you're asked for a picture. But why would I want a picture? I mean, I will ask for a picture. Like I did an interview not too long ago, and we had to ask for the pictures because it was an online interview. And we wanted to see a picture. The people we shortlisted for an interview, we asked them to provide a picture so that we could match those pictures with the profile which we have. So that is an exceptional case. But at the very beginning, we did not ask those guys for a picture, and because it's not important, no, it could be discriminatory.
Okay. I think there are some comments here about the other questions about the BSc grade. I think it's about mentioning what grade you've got. I mean, or you had 2-1, 2-2, and the rest first class, and the rest. I think that's the clarity there in what the question was looking.
If you have a first class, you know what? Show it off. I'll say a first class student with this degree. I'll say yes, it's a good thing to have, because yes, you've got a first class. Please put it in there. Now you make a first class. My degree, my first degree, I had a distinction in my postgraduate. So when I put for my degree, I said a highly qualified bachelor's. So you can put qualified in that will compensate for not having a first class. You understand? And I'd say, but if you have a first class, I'll say show it off. Yes, put out your first class. But if you haven't got it, then just put, a qualified bachelor's holder, and of course put your degree there, but don't put the qualification. And I've seen somebody that's put his qualification, put a third class in his qualification. I said, oh my God, why is this person put a third class, for instance? That is, he's just done himself a disservice, because I would just say, look, he's not a serious person, that's it. But if he put that third class, maybe he would have gotten an interview, and then, that maybe that would have been asked at all.
So there's a final question here. When you upload incorrect CV to recruiters career portal or send to prospective employer's email for a position, how can you get that corrected? I think this one is easy.
It's easy. You have to send an email to the recruitment agency, call them, send them an email, tell them you made a mistake, you want to get it corrected. I think that's pretty obvious, yeah, because from time to time, it's important that you actually go and upload or update your CV anyway. So yeah, I also just drop an email and say, look, you put the wrong profile, or better still, upload a new one in there. If you cannot get hold of the of that company, just upload a new one, a new profile in there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the last question, but I do have something to add with regards to grade as well. I know a lot of so many people pay attention to what grade I have or what grade I don't have. I have it to want to have distinctions, and it depends on the type of role that you go for. It depends on a lot of people. In the United Kingdom, for instance, most jobs, a lot of employers prefer someone to have experience, key skills in the job. So your training, your vocational skills that you have, you can come down and do the job. That's what they test you for. So that is very, very important to highlight in your CV that you can do, as opposed to I have distinction. In my career, I've worked with a lot of PhD holders, and I'm doing the exact same role as them. We're sitting down. They're not better than me, and that's because I have the skill set that they have, but they have PhD. And it doesn't make any difference. So it's important to highlight your skills, as the presenter, Dr. Oda, has just mentioned.
Yeah, and just to add on to that as well, if you're applying for a role that they haven't asked you for a PhD, then if it doesn't require a PhD, then maybe you might be overqualified for that role. You understand? So sometimes you might just have to put yourself at the level that they've asked you, in order to get yourself, that position that has been advertised. Just a tip there. Yeah.
Okay, there's a final question here from Bamidele, just came in. Is it possible for someone with great professional degree to get a job in the UK, as they do get a job in our offshore or shore job in West Africa?
It is so. It is down to the company. So if you go back to my first few slides, I said SQEP, suitable, experienced, qualified personnel. The suitability there is, if I put out a job vacancy, do I want someone that's local to the business? So, and that is quite important, that you got to look at. It's possible to get a job anywhere in the world, but it has to be, the company has to put that they are willing to take on somebody from abroad, because there's also the part of work permit and all those things as well that have to go with it. So if a company is ready or prepared to follow that process through, then why not? But if they're not ready to follow that process through, then you might have some difficulty there getting a job in a different company, a different country, simply because you might not have the required work permit and the logistics as well to go with it. That's it.
Just to add to that as well, it is purely going to be an immigration factor.
Yeah.
And I mean, there may be sponsorship requirements, for such a company to meet. And in fact, in some part of Europe, you have to pay some money to hire someone else, from another jurisdiction. So there's cost implication to that for some of the companies. Say, for example, I went over from UK to work for a company based out in Netherlands. They paid so much to the government for hiring me, and they have to also demonstrate that no one else has got the required skills in Netherlands to do the job. But they were prepared to go through the hoops, for example, because of the experience. If you got the right sort of experience, right sort of qualifications, some companies will do that and hire you regardless of where you're located. So that's
absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I got a quick example as well. I know of a friend of mine as well that he got hired from Lagos by a company in the UK here. They paid for his visa. There was just something special about him. that he put on the CV and another application, and the company paid for the visa application, everything he needed. They paid for everything. They sponsored him till when he came to the UK and started working for them. So, as I said, as Dr. Chris mentioned, that if you have that particular expertise, you will certainly get that, they will go all the way to ensure that they get you hired. Thank you very much. And hopefully maybe we can do a more detailed session at another date. Because I did mention that this is, we just scratched the surface here. And there are so many examples we could look at in terms of CV and how do you actually articulate that into a succinct document. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Presenter. We appreciate your time. We have come to the end of this program this evening, but what we can do is we will post our email address on all the fora just to get some more questions. If you do have any question that you want to get out there and you haven't managed to get it out today, or have not quite covered, your question the way you would like us to cover it, we would like to invite you to drop us an email or send us a message on the WhatsApp with your question, and we will try as much as possible to address the specifics of your questions. But unfortunately, we have to close the program because we're already running out of time. It's over 90 minutes already. And there are people wanting to get away to do other things as well. We're very conscious of time. But I'd like to seize this opportunity to thank everyone immensely for the time you have spent to listen to this program. Time will never be enough for you to get everything that you want or get your questions out there. But we'll have a look at the possibility of actually maybe doing more sessions to cover some of the stuff that we've not been able to cover today. But I thank everyone for coming, and I would say drop us an email, drop us message on the WhatsApp, and we can take you from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And also to add, the expert talk as well will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So we'll share the details later, so everyone can just go in and watch as well. And yeah, take some viewpoint in there. So I hope everyone has taken things here. And I just add something there. Remember, we are the architect of our own future. Take ownership, learn, and develop. Thank you, Doctor.